The world had changed. It wasn't the kind of change that happens slowly, like seasons shifting or cities growing over decades. This was sudden, jarring, and impossible to ignore. For years, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew the answer, and it wasn't comforting. The aliens had arrived, not with open arms or messages of peace, but with cold, calculating stares and ships that dwarfed Earth's most advanced technology. Earth's government scrambled to respond. Military bases were put on high alert, weapon systems were upgraded, and new strategies were devised around the clock. Humanity wasn't ready for war, but it seemed war was coming anyway. Amidst all this chaos stood Captain Lavra Hayes, a name known across the globe as one of the best soldiers Earth had ever produced. Pictures of her appeared in newspapers and on television screens everywhere. Her sharp eyes, confident stance, and rows of medals told the story of a warrior who wouldn't back down. But there was something no one outside a small circle of top officials knew. Lavra Hayes wasn't the real ace in the hole. She was a decoy, a carefully crafted illusion meant to draw attention away from someone else. While the aliens studied her movements and analyzed her tactics, the true powerhouse remained hidden, tucked away in secret locations, training harder than anyone could imagine. That person was Private Alex Morgan, a quiet man whose skills spoke louder than words ever could. Lavra didn't mind playing second fiddle in this grand scheme. She'd been chosen because she fit the role perfectly. Confident, fearless, and highly skilled, she was exactly what people expected their heroes to look like. And while she trained and led missions just like any other soldier, her primary job was far simpler: be visible. Be loud, be unforgettable. Because as long as everyone thought she was the best Earth had to offer, the aliens would never suspect the truth. It was late evening when Laura's convoy rolled through the Nevada desert. The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Her team consisted of 5 armored vehicles, each carrying soldiers armed to the teeth. They weren't heading anywhere important, just another routine patrol to keep morale high among the troops and remind the public that Earth's military was still strong. Or at least, that's what the official report said. In reality, these patrols served another purpose. By keeping Lavra out in the open, Command hoped to bait the aliens into making a move. If they wanted to capture Earth's best, here was their chance. Of course, Lavra knew the risks. She'd volunteered for this mission, knowing full well that being abducted by extraterrestrials wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Still, she trusted the plan. Trusting General Carter came easy. He was a gruff old man with decades of experience under his belt, and he wouldn't have greenlit anything reckless. As the convoy drove deeper into the desert, the air grew cooler, and the stars began to twinkle above. Everything seemed normal until a low hum filled the air. At first, it was faint, almost unnoticeable, but within seconds, it grew louder, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. Lavra immediately ordered her team to stop. She stepped out of her vehicle, scanning the dark sky for signs of trouble. "Captain, we've got movement," shouted Corporal Jake Miller, pointing toward the horizon. Sure enough, a massive shadow loomed overhead, blotting out the stars. It hovered silently, its sleek surface reflecting the moonlight. Before anyone could react, beams of light shot down from the ship, enveloping the convoy in an eerie glow. "Take cover," Lavra yelled, diving behind her vehicle as the beams intensified. Her soldiers followed suit, scrambling for safety. But it was too late. The light wasn't just blinding, it was pulling them upward, defying gravity with terrifying ease. Lavra felt herself lifted off the ground, her body weightless as she floated higher and higher. Around her, her team shouted in panic, their voices fading as the distance between them and the desert floor increased. When the ascent finally stopped, Lavra found herself inside the alien vessel. The interior was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Smooth, metallic walls stretched endlessly in every direction, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. There were no windows, no doors, just seamless surfaces that seemed alive somehow. Standing nearby were several tall, slender figures, their elongated limbs and large, black eyes marking them as unmistakably alien. One of them stepped forward, tilting its head as if studying her. Lovra forced herself to stay calm, even though her heart was pounding in her chest. She'd trained for situations like this, preparing for the possibility of capture. Every move she made now mattered. These creatures believed they'd caught Earth's greatest soldier. Let them think that for now. Back at command headquarters, General Carter watched the live feed from Laura's neural implant. The tiny device, embedded in her brain, transmitted everything she saw and heard back to Earth. So far, things were going according to plan. The aliens hadn't harmed her, which suggested they wanted information more than revenge. Good, that gave them time to act. Phase 1 complete, Carter muttered to himself, leaning back in his chair. He allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Lovra was doing exactly what she was supposed to do, buying time. Somewhere else, deep underground, Alex Morgan was already suiting up, preparing for the next phase of the operation. The real battle hadn't even begun yet. Inside the alien ship, Lovra took stock of her situation. Her weapons had been confiscated, but that didn't mean she was defenseless. Years of combat training had taught her how to fight without guns or knives. More importantly, she carried something far more valuable in her head: misinformation. Every piece of data the aliens extracted from her would be false, planted specifically to mislead them. They thought they'd captured Earth's best. In reality, they'd walked right into a trap. For now, Lavra played along, feigning confusion and fear. She let the aliens lead her to a holding chamber, where they secured her with energy restraints. As the door slid shut behind her, she exhaled sharply, allowing herself a brief moment of relief. Phase 1 was over. Now the waiting game began. The holding chamber was cold and silent, the kind of silence that pressed against Laura's ears like a weight. The walls gleamed faintly, their metallic surface reflecting her tired but determined face. She sat cross-legged on the floor, her hands resting loosely in her lap. To anyone watching, she might have looked defeated, resigned to her fate. But inside, her mind raced. Every second counted, and Lavra knew it. She glanced at the glowing restraints around her wrists. They weren't made of metal or any material. She recognized they pulsed with energy, humming softly as if alive. She tested them cautiously, tugging just enough to feel their strength without triggering an alarm. They didn't budge. Not surprising. These aliens were advanced, far beyond anything Earth had developed. But Lavra wasn't worried. Physical escape wasn't her priority right now. Her real job had already begun, through the neural implant embedded in her brain. Lavra transmitted everything she saw and heard back to Earth, the tiny device no larger than a grain of rice worked silently, sending data streams through encrypted channels. General Carter and his team monitored her every move, analyzing the alien ship's layout and technology. Lavra knew this information would be crucial for Alex Morgan when the time came. For now her role was simple: stay alive, stay calm, and keep feeding false leads to the aliens. Not long after she'd settled into the chamber, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Two of the tall, slender aliens entered, their movements fluid and deliberate. One carried what looked like a handheld device, its surface covered in glowing symbols. The other stood behind Lavra, its large, black eyes fixed on her with unsettling intensity. Lavra kept her expression neutral, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing fear. The alien with the device stepped closer, extending it toward her forehead. Lavra flinched instinctively, though she knew better than to resist. The device emitted a low hum, and a sharp tingling sensation spread through her skull. It wasn't painful exactly, but it was invasive, like someone rifling through her thoughts. Without permission, Laura clenched her jaw, focusing on the mental exercises she'd practiced for months. She visualized barriers in her mind, walls built to protect the truth and conceal the lies the aliens were searching for information about. Earth's military capabilities, its defensive strategies, and its most valuable assets. What they found instead was a carefully constructed web of misinformation. Laura had spent weeks memorizing fake details about troop deployments, weapon systems, and orbital defenses. Now she let those fabricated memories rise to the surface, allowing the aliens to extract them piece by piece. They're buying it, Laura thought, keeping her breathing steady. Keep going. After several minutes, the alien lowered the device and exchanged a series of clicks and chirps with its companion. Laura couldn't understand their language, but their body language spoke volumes. They seemed frustrated, confused. Even, good. That meant her deception was working. But the aliens weren't done yet. The second figure stepped forward, placing a clawed hand on Laura's shoulder. She suppressed a shiver at the touch. It was cold, almost unnaturally so. The alien tilted its head, studying her with those impossibly large eyes. Then, without warning, it pressed a finger to her temple. Laura gasped as a wave of sensations flooded her mind. This wasn't like the device. It was raw, unfiltered, and overwhelming. Images flashed before her eyes. Battles she'd never fought, faces she'd never seen, places she'd never been. The alien wasn't just scanning her thoughts. It was probing deeper, trying to break through the mental barriers she'd built. Laura gritted her teeth, fighting to maintain control. Her training had prepared her for this moment, but nothing could truly replicate the experience of having your mind invaded. You won't get anything useful, Laura whispered under her breath, more to herself than to the aliens. You've got the wrong person. Back on Earth, General Carter watched the live feed from Laura's implant. His brow furrowed as he observed the interrogation. The aliens were persistent, far more so than he'd anticipated. Still, Laura held her ground. Her vital signs remained stable, a testament to her discipline and focus. Carter allowed himself a small nod of approval. She was doing exactly what she'd been trained to do. She's buying us time, Carter said aloud, turning to his assistant, Lieutenant Emily Ross. How's Morgan coming along? He's ready, sir, Emily replied, her voice steady. Just waiting for your signal. Good, Carter muttered. Let's hope Hayes can hold out a little longer. Meanwhile, aboard the alien ship, Laura continued to endure the probing. The sensations ebbed and flowed, each wave testing her resolve. She focused on her breathing, repeating a mantra in her head. Stay strong, stay calm. Slowly, the pressure began to ease. The alien withdrew its finger, exchanging another series of chirps with its companion. Laura exhaled sharply, her muscles relaxing slightly. Whatever they'd been looking for, they hadn't found it. For the next few hours, the alien subjected Laura to a series of tests. They scanned her body with strange instruments, asked questions using distorted sounds that vaguely resembled human speech, and even attempted to simulate scenarios designed to break her psychologically. Through it all, Laura played her part flawlessly. She pretended to weaken under their relentless scrutiny, letting slip fragments of false information while subtly reinforcing the idea that she was Earth's greatest asset. By the time they left her alone again, Laura was exhausted. Her head throbbed and her limbs felt heavy, but she refused to let herself rest. Instead, she used the quiet moments to gather her thoughts and plan her next steps. The aliens believed they'd captured humanity's best soldier, a decoy meant to distract them while Alex Morgan prepared for the real mission. Laura's job was to ensure they stayed distracted for as long as possible. As she sat in the dim glow of the holding chamber, Laura's mind drifted to Alex. She wondered where he was, what he was doing, and how close he was to launching the counterattack. She trusted him completely. He was the reason she'd volunteered for this mission in the first place. If anyone could turn the tide of this conflict, it was Alex. All she had to do was buy him enough time. Hours turned into days, and the cycle repeated itself. The aliens returned periodically, probing and questioning, growing increasingly frustrated with their lack of progress. Lavra fed them more misinformation, planting seeds of doubt about Earth's true intentions. She described elaborate defense systems that didn't exist, hinted at secret alliances with other alien races, and even suggested that humanity had developed countermeasures capable of neutralizing their technology. At one point, the aliens brought in a new device, a cube-like object that hovered in midair, projecting holographic images. Lavra watched as the projections shifted and changed, forming patterns and shapes she couldn't decipher. The alien seemed particularly interested in her reactions, observing her closely as the cube displayed various scenes, Earth cities, military installations, and even images of her own family. Lavra kept her emotions in check, refusing to show any attachment or vulnerability. She knew the aliens were trying to manipulate her, to find a weakness they could exploit. But she'd trained for this too. Her personal life was compartmentalized, locked away behind layers of mental fortification. No matter how hard they pushed, they wouldn't find anything useful. Despite her outward composure, Lavra couldn't help but feel a flicker of unease. The aliens were smarter than she'd expected, their methods more sophisticated, anything Earth scientists had predicted. They weren't just gathering intelligence, they were learning, adapting, and that meant time was running out. On the third day, something changed. The aliens stopped their interrogations altogether. Instead, they left Laura alone in the holding chamber, the door sealed shut. At first, she assumed they were regrouping, planning their next move. But as the hours passed, she began to suspect something else. They weren't ignoring her. They were preparing for something bigger. Lavra activated her neural implant, sending a coded message to Earth. "They're on to me," she transmitted. "I don't know what they're planning, but it's big. Tell Morgan to hurry." Her message reached General Carter almost instantly. He read it with a grim expression, his fingers drumming against the desk. "Time to move," he said firmly, turning to Lieutenant Ross. "Contact Morgan. Tell him we're a go." Far away, in a hidden facility buried deep within the Rocky Mountains, Alex Morgan received the order. He'd been waiting for this moment, training tirelessly for months. Now finally, it was time to act. As he suited up, checking his equipment, one last time, Alex allowed himself a brief thought of Lavra. He didn't know what awaited her aboard the alien ship, but he vowed to bring her home, if it was still possible. Lavra, meanwhile, braced herself for whatever came next. She didn't know when or how Alex would arrive, but she trusted him implicitly. Until then, she would do what she did best: survive. Deep within the Rocky Mountains, Alex Morgan stood in a dimly lit room, surrounded by advanced equipment and weapons. The air was cool and carried the faint hum of machinery working tirelessly in the background. Alex adjusted the straps on his prototype suit, feeling its weight settle comfortably against his body. It wasn't heavy, but it radiated a sense of power, a promise that it would keep him safe in the most dangerous situations. The suit was unlike anything Earth had ever created. Its surface shimmered faintly, capable of bending light to render him nearly invisible. Embedded sensors monitored his vitals, adjusting temperature and oxygen levels automatically. Most importantly, it could repair itself if damaged, sealing tears or cracks in seconds. Alex ran his fingers over the smooth material, reminding himself of the countless hours he'd spent training with it. Lieutenant Emily Ross approached him, her expression serious but calm. She held a tablet in one hand, scrolling through final mission details. "You're clear to go," she said, her voice steady. "The shuttle's prepped and ready. We've got eyes on the alien ship, and we'll guide you in as close as we can." Alex nodded, his jaw tight. He didn't say much words. Weren't his style, but his focus was absolute. For months, he'd trained for this moment, preparing for every possible scenario. Now standing on the brink of action, he felt a strange mix of nerves and determination. He glanced at the map displayed on the wall, showing the alien mothership's projected location. It loomed like a dark cloud in humanity's future, but Alex refused to let fear take hold. "Remember," Emily added, lowering her voice slightly, "Laura's bought us time, but we don't know how much longer she can hold out. Get in, get her, and gather whatever intel you can. If things go sideways," she paused, meeting his gaze, "you have authorization to destroy the ship." Alex gave a single nod, understanding the gravity of her words. Destroying the mothership would mean risking Laura's life, but if it came down to saving her or protecting Earth, there was no question what he'd choose. Still, he hoped it wouldn't come to that. Laura had sacrificed everything to give him this chance, and he owed it to her to bring her home. With a final check of his gear, Alex stepped onto the shuttle. It was small and sleek, designed for stealth rather than speed. Emily joined him in the cockpit, taking her seat at the controls. Her hands moved deftly over the panel, initiating launch protocols. Within moments, the engines roared to life, and the shuttle lifted off, disappearing into the night sky. The journey through space was tense. Emily navigated carefully, weaving between asteroid fields and debris clouds to avoid detection. Alien patrols drifted past occasionally, their ships, scanning the void for signs of intruders. Each time, Alex held his breath, watching as the scanners swept dangerously close to their position. But the shuttle's cloaking technology worked flawlessly, keeping them hidden from view. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the occasional update from Emily. "We're approaching the target," she finally announced, her tone clipped. "I'll drop you off just outside their perimeter. From there, you're on your own." Alex nodded again, checking his weapons one last time. He carried a compact rifle capable of firing plasma rounds, along with several grenades loaded with MP charges. His belt was stocked with tools and gadgets designed to disable alien tech. Everything he needed was strapped to his body, ready to be used at a moment's notice. As the shuttle slowed to a stop, Emily turned to face him. "Good luck," she said softly, her usual stern demeanor softening for a brief moment. "Bring her back." "I will," Alex replied, his voice firm. With that, he opened the hatch and stepped out into the cold vacuum of space. The shuttle's engines fired once more, vanishing into the darkness as Alex activated his suit's propulsion system. He floated silently toward the alien mothership, its massive form looming ahead like a sleeping beast. Getting inside wasn't easy. The ship's outer hull was smooth and seamless, offering no obvious entry points. Alex scanned the surface carefully, searching for weak spots. Finally, he spotted a maintenance hatch tucked away near the rear of the vessel. Using a cutting tool from his belt, he sliced through the metal, creating a small opening just wide enough to slip through. Once inside, Alex activated his suit's cloaking function, rendering himself nearly invisible. He moved cautiously, stepping lightly to avoid making noise. The corridors were eerily quiet, lined with glowing conduits and strange machinery. Every so often, he encountered alien drones patrolling the area. They hovered silently, their sensors scanning for intruders. Alex froze each time, holding his breath until they passed. Using the data transmitted by Laura's neural implant, Alex plotted a course toward her holding chamber. Along the way, he noticed something unsettling. The aliens seemed to be preparing for something big. Crews scurried about, hauling equipment and assembling devices he couldn't identify. Whatever they were planning, it wasn't good. Finally, after what felt like hours, Alex reached the holding chamber. Peering through the translucent walls, he saw Lavra sitting cross-legged on the floor. Her head was bowed, and her shoulders slumped slightly, but she looked alive. Relief washed over him, though he forced himself to stay focused. Getting her out wouldn't be easy. Alex examined the door mechanism, analyzing its design. It was complex, far beyond anything he'd seen before, but he'd been trained for situations like this. Pulling out a hacking device, he connected it to the control panel and began overriding the security protocols. The process took several minutes, during which Alex kept glancing over his shoulder, expecting aliens to appear at any moment. When the door finally slid open, Lavra looked up, startled. Her eyes widened as she recognized the figure standing in the doorway. "Took you long enough," she quipped, managing a weak smile despite her condition. Alex didn't respond. Instead, he quickly disabled her energy restraints and helped her to her feet. "Can you walk?" he asked, his voice low. "I'm fine," Lavra replied, brushing herself off. "What's the plan?" "We need to get out of here," Alex said. "But first, we sabotage their systems. I'll plant explosives in key areas while you cover me." Lavra nodded, already reaching for the weapon Alex handed her. Together, they moved deeper into the ship, sticking to the shadows and avoiding patrols. Alex worked quickly, placing charges near critical systems like power cores and communication arrays. Each explosion would cripple the ship, buying Earth precious time to prepare for future attacks. As they worked, Lavra provided valuable insights based on her observations during captivity. She pointed out areas where the aliens were developing biological weapons, horrifying creations designed to target specific human populations. Alex listened intently, adjusting their route to include these locations. If they could destroy the research facilities, it might save millions of lives. Their progress was interrupted when they stumbled upon the ship's central control room. It was a vast chamber filled with glowing consoles and holographic displays, all operated by aliens, who moved with mechanical precision. In the center of the room stood a massive cylinder, pulsing with an eerie blue light. Alex immediately recognized it as the ship's main reactor. "This is it," he whispered to Lavra. "If we take this out, the whole ship goes down." Lavra nodded, gripping her weapon tightly. "Let's do it." They burst into the room, catching the aliens off guard. Alex fired his rifle, sending plasma bolts streaking across the chamber. Lavra followed suit, providing covering fire as Alex sprinted toward the reactor. The aliens fought back fiercely, deploying drones and activating defensive systems. Sparks flew as energy blasts ricocheted off walls and consoles. Despite the chaos, Alex reached the reactor and planted the final charge. "Done!" he shouted, signaling Lavra to fall back. They retreated as quickly as they could, dodging explosions and collapsing structures. Behind them, alarms blared, and the ship began to shake violently. "We need to get out of here now," Lavra yelled, grabbing Alex's arm. Together they raced toward the exit, their hearts pounding as the countdown ticked closer to zero. The mothership groaned around them, its systems failing one by one. Finally, they reached the maintenance hatch Alex had entered through earlier. Without hesitation, they leapt into space, activating their propulsion systems to carry them away. From the doomed vessel behind them, the ship erupted in a brilliant flash of light, its destruction lighting up the void like a second sun. Floating safely in the emptiness, Alex and Lavra watched as the debris scattered, their mission complete. For now, humanity was safe, but both knew the fight was far from over. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a fiery sunrise, its brilliance momentarily blinding Alex and Lavra as they floated in the void. The shockwave rippled outward, sending fragments of the alien mothership spiraling into the endless expanse. For a moment, there was silence, just the two of them suspended in weightlessness, staring at the destruction they had caused. Lavra broke the quiet first. "That was closer than I'd like," she said, her voice calm but tinged with exhaustion. She glanced at Alex, who was still watching the wreckage drift apart. "You did good." Alex didn't respond right away. His mind was racing, replaying everything that had happened aboard the ship, the chaos, the fighting, the narrow escapes. He knew they'd accomplished their mission, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't over yet. The aliens weren't fools. They wouldn't let this defeat stand without retaliation. "Let's not celebrate just yet," Alex finally replied, his tone measured. "We need to get back to Earth. If any of them survived, they'll be coming after us." Lara nodded in agreement. She reached for the communicator on her wrist, activating it to send a signal to Lieutenant Emily Ross. "This is Hayes, mission complete. Requesting extraction." There was a brief pause before Emily's voice crackled through the device. "Copy that, Captain. We're en route. Hold your position." Alex and Lara activated their propulsion systems, drifting slightly away from the debris field to make themselves easier to locate. As they waited, Lara took stock of her condition. Her body ached from days of captivity and the intense escape, but she pushed the pain aside. There would be time to rest later. Right now, staying alert was more important. Minutes passed, and then the shuttle appeared, emerging from the darkness like a shadow come to life. Its engines glowed faintly as it approached, slowing to a stop just a few meters away. The hatch opened, revealing Emily standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Get in," she said simply, stepping aside to let them board. Once inside, Alex and Lara collapsed into seats, their bodies finally relaxing after hours of tension. Emily wasted no time, firing up the engines and setting a course back to Earth. The shuttle hummed softly as it accelerated, leaving the remnants of the alien ship far behind. As they traveled, Lara filled Emily in on what she'd learned during her captivity. She described the aliens' interrogation methods, their advanced technology, and most importantly, their plans. "They're developing biological weapons," she explained, her voice steady despite the gravity of the information. "Targeted pathogens designed to wipe out specific human populations. If we hadn't destroyed those labs, they might have succeeded." Emily listened intently, her brow furrowing. "General Carter needs to hear this," she said. "He'll want a full debrief as soon as we land." Alex remained silent throughout the conversation, his thoughts elsewhere. He stared out the window at the stars streaking past, wondering how many of them hid alien civilizations. Were these creatures truly alone in their hostility, or were there others waiting to strike? Humanity had been lucky this time, but luck wasn't something they could count on forever. When the shuttle touched down at the hidden facility, General Carter was already waiting. His gruff demeanor softened slightly as he saw Lara step off the craft, battered but alive. "Good work," he said, nodding to both her and Alex. "You've given us a fighting chance." Lara managed a weak smile. "It wasn't easy, sir, but we got the job done." Carter led them to a briefing room, where maps, diagrams, and holographic displays covered every available surface. He gestured for them to sit, then turned to face the group. "Tell me everything," he ordered, his voice firm. "Start from the beginning." For the next hour, Lara recounted her experiences aboard the alien ship, detailing the interrogations, the tests, and the aliens' growing frustration. Alex added his perspective, describing the infiltration, the sabotage, and the final confrontation in the control room. By the time they finished, Carter's expression was grim. "They're learning," he muttered, pacing back and forth. "Every encounter teaches them more about us. Next time, they won't underestimate us." "That's why we need to act fast," Lara interjected. "If we can analyze the data I transmitted from my implant, we might find weaknesses in their technology. Exploit those, and we can level the playing field." Carter nodded slowly, agreed. "But we also need to prepare for the worst. If they retaliate, and they will, we need to be ready." Alex spoke up for the first time since landing. "What about their reinforcements?" Did we take out all of them, or are there more ships out there? Carter hesitated before answering. Our scans show multiple vessels scattered across the solar system. Some are retreating, regrouping. Others are moving toward Earth. It's only a matter of time before they launch another attack. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Humanity had won a battle, but the war was far from over. The aliens were relentless, and their resources seemed almost limitless. Earth's military was strong, but it wasn't invincible. We'll need every advantage we can get, Carter continued, breaking the silence. Morgan, you've proven yourself capable of handling high-risk missions. I'm putting you in charge of special operations moving forward. Your focus will be sabotage, reconnaissance, and anything else that gives us an edge. Alex nodded, accepting the responsibility without hesitation. He'd known from the start that this fight would require sacrifices, and he was willing to make them. Still, the weight of the task ahead felt heavier than ever. What about me, sir? Lavra asked, leaning forward slightly. I'm ready to keep contributing however I can. Carter studied her for a moment, considering his response. Your role as a decoy has served its purpose for now. Going forward, you'll shift to advisory duties. Train the next wave of soldiers. Share what you've learned. Your experience is invaluable. Lavra nodded, though a flicker of disappointment crossed her face. She understood the logic behind the decision, but part of her longed to stay in the field, to keep fighting alongside Alex. Still, she knew her skills could be put to good use elsewhere. If training others meant giving humanity a better chance at survival, she would do it willingly. Over the following days, the team worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable counterattack. Scientists analyzed the data collected from Laura's neural implant, searching for patterns and vulnerabilities in the aliens' behavior. Engineers studied fragments of the destroyed mothership recovered by reconnaissance drones, trying to reverse engineer their technology. Meanwhile, Alex trained with new recruits, teaching them the tactics and strategies he'd honed over months of preparation. Lavra threw herself into her new role, mentoring young soldiers and sharing insights gained from her captivity. She emphasized the importance of mental resilience, teaching them how to resist interrogation and maintain composure under pressure. Her lessons were practical and direct, earning her respect and admiration from those she trained. Despite the progress, tensions ran high. Everyone knew the aliens would return, and when they did, the stakes would be higher than ever. Sleep became a luxury few could afford, and meals were often eaten hastily while reviewing mission plans or studying alien tech. One evening, as the base settled into a rare moment of quiet, Alex found himself sitting alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Lavra joined him after a while, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to him wordlessly, then sat down beside him. You okay? She asked after a long pause. Alex shrugged, sipping his coffee. Just thinking about what's coming next. We stopped them this time, but they'll be smarter next time. Stronger. We'll be ready, Lavra replied firmly. We have to be. Alex glanced at her, seeing the same determination in her eyes that had driven him since the beginning. Yeah, he said quietly, we do. They sat in companionable silence for a while, the weight of their shared mission hanging between them. Both knew the road ahead would be difficult, fraught with danger and uncertainty, but they also knew they weren't alone. Together, with the support of their team and the hope of billions counting on them, they would face whatever came. Next. And when the aliens returned, as they surely would, they would be waiting. The days turned into weeks, and the calm after the destruction of the alien mothership began to feel more like a storm waiting to break. Humanity had won a small victory, but everyone at the hidden facility knew it was only temporary. The aliens were out there, regrouping, rebuilding, and planning their next move. Earth's military worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable retaliation. But the question on everyone's mind was simple. When would it happen? Alex Morgan spent most of his time training new recruits. He pushed them hard, teaching them everything he knew about stealth, combat, and survival in hostile environments. His lessons weren't just physical, they were mental too. Out there, he told them during one session, pointing to a holographic map of space, you won't have time to second-guess yourself. You make a decision, and you stick to it. Hesitation gets people killed. The recruits respected him, though they often found his methods intimidating. Lavra Hayes watched from the sidelines sometimes, observing how Alex handled the group. She admired his dedication, even if she missed being in the field herself. Her role as an advisor kept her busy, but there were moments when she felt restless, longing for the adrenaline rush of action. Meanwhile, scientists pored over the data recovered from Laura's neural implant and the fragments of the destroyed mothership. They discovered unsettling details about the aliens' biological weapons program. The pathogens they were developing weren't just designed to kill, they were engineered to adapt, spreading rapidly and mutating to resist human attempts to contain them. It was a nightmare scenario, one that made General Carter's jaw tighten every time he reviewed the reports. We need countermeasures, Carter said during a meeting with his top officers. If they deploy these weapons, we'll have no way to stop them unless we act now. Lavra spoke up, her voice firm. We should focus on disrupting their supply lines. If we can cut off their resources, they won't be able to produce the weapons in large quantities. Carter nodded thoughtfully. Good idea. Morgan, I want you to lead a team to scout their bases. Find out where they're manufacturing these things and hit them before they can scale up production. Alex didn't hesitate. Understood, sir. When do we leave? As soon as possible, Carter replied. Time isn't on our side. The mission took Alex and a small team of elite soldiers deep into enemy territory. Their target was a remote asteroid base believed to house one of the aliens' key research facilities. Traveling aboard a cloaked reconnaissance vessel, they approached cautiously, scanning the area for signs of activity. The base was heavily guarded, with patrols of drones circling its perimeter and energy shields protecting its entrances. This is going to be tricky, muttered Sergeant Ryan Blake, one of Alex's teammates. He adjusted the settings on his rifle, checking the charge levels. If we get spotted, we're dead. We won't get spotted, Alex said calmly. Stick to the plan, and we'll get in and out without anyone knowing we were here. Using a combination of stealth tech and precise timing, the team managed to infiltrate the base undetected. Inside, they found exactly what they were looking for. Rows of containment pods filled with glowing green liquid, each housing samples of the deadly pathogen. Scientists, both alien and human collaborators, moved between workstations, oblivious to the intruders slipping through the shadows. Alex signaled for his team to spread out, planting explosives at strategic points throughout the facility. As they worked, Laura's voice crackled through their earpieces. She was monitoring their progress remotely, feeding them real-time updates based on sensor readings. You've got 2 minutes before the next patrol passes your location, she warned. Move fast. Alex acknowledged her warning, finishing his task just as the sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridor. He motioned for his team to hide, pressing himself against the wall as a group of aliens walked by. They didn't notice the humans watching them. Their attention focused elsewhere. Once the coast was clear, Alex led the team deeper into the facility. Their final objective was the central control room, where they could disable the base's defenses and trigger the explosives remotely. Reaching it required navigating a maze of corridors patrolled by armed guards. Every step carried the risk of discovery, but Alex's experience kept them moving smoothly. When they finally reached the control room, Alex wasted no time. He plugged a hacking device into the main console, overriding the security protocols while his team kept watch. The process took longer than expected, and tension mounted as alarms blared suddenly, signaling a breach. "They know we're here," Ryan shouted, firing his weapon at a group of aliens rushing toward them. "Almost done," Alex replied, his fingers flying over the controls. With a final keystroke, the system unlocked, allowing him to activate the explosives. "Let's go." The team retreated quickly, dodging blasts and collapsing structures as the charges detonated behind them. The explosion lit up the asteroid's surface, sending shockwaves rippling through the surrounding debris field. From their vantage point aboard the reconnaissance vessel, Lovra watched the fiery display with grim satisfaction. "That should slow them down," she said, turning to face the others. But it's not over yet. Back on Earth, General Carter received the mission report with a mixture of relief and concern. The destruction of the asteroid base was a significant blow to the aliens' operations, but it wasn't enough to stop them entirely. Intelligence suggested that multiple other facilities existed, scattered across the galaxy. Each one posed a threat, and humanity couldn't afford to let any of them remain operational. "We've bought ourselves some time," Carter told his staff during a debriefing. "But we need to stay ahead of them. Morgan, you'll continue leading sabotage missions. Hayes, keep training the recruits and analyzing intel. Everyone else, focus on strengthening our defenses. This war isn't going to end anytime soon." As the meeting concluded, Alex lingered behind, approaching Carter privately. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" Carter raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Go ahead." "I've been thinking," Alex began, choosing his words carefully. "Every time we destroy one of their bases, they adapt faster. We're playing catch-up, and eventually, they'll outpace us. If we want to win this, we need to take the fight to them, not just react to their moves." Carter leaned back in his chair, considering Alex's words. "What are you suggesting?" "A direct strike on their homeworld," Alex replied. "It's risky, but if we can cripple their command structure, it might give us the upper hand." Carter was silent for a long moment, weighing the risks and rewards of such a bold strategy. Finally, he sighed. "It's not something we can decide lightly, but I'll consider it. For now, focus on the missions at hand. We'll revisit this idea when the time is right." In the days that followed, Alex returned to his duties, leading more missions and gathering intelligence. Lavra continued mentoring new soldiers, instilling in them the skills and mindset needed to survive in battle. Together, they formed a strong partnership, each contributing their unique strengths to the fight. But despite their efforts, the looming threat of the aliens never faded. Reports of increased alien activity near Earth's borders grew more frequent, raising fears of an imminent invasion. The clock was ticking, and humanity's chances of survival depended on staying one step ahead of an enemy that refused to give up. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, Alex and Lavra stood together on the observation deck, watching the sky darken. Neither spoke for a while, both lost in thought. Finally, Laura broke the silence. "What happens if we lose?" she asked softly, her eyes fixed on the stars. Alex hesitated before answering. "We don't lose. That's not an option." Lavra turned to look at him, seeing the determination in his expression. "You're right," she said, managing a small smile. "We'll find a way. We always do." And with that, they returned to their work, ready to face whatever came next. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Humanity's military forces worked around the clock, preparing for the aliens' next move. The destruction of the asteroid base had dealt a significant blow to their biological weapons program, but it wasn't enough to stop them entirely. Intelligence reports confirmed that the aliens were regrouping, amassing their fleet for a massive assault on Earth. Time was running out. Alex Morgan continued leading sabotage missions, targeting alien supply lines and research facilities wherever they could be found. Each mission brought new risks, but Alex's team operated with precision and discipline. They destroyed key installations, disrupted communications, and gathered valuable intelligence. Yet, despite their successes, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were only delaying the inevitable. The aliens were relentless, adapting quickly to every setback humanity threw at them. Lavra Hayes, meanwhile, poured her energy into training the next generation of soldiers. She pushed them hard, knowing that their lives and the fate of the planet depended on their readiness. Her lessons went beyond combat skills. She taught them how to think strategically, how to stay calm under pressure, and how to work as a team. Many of her recruits looked up to her, inspired by her courage and resilience. Still, Lavra couldn't help but feel a pang of longing every time she watched Alex's team prepare for another dangerous mission. Part of her wished she could join them, but she knew her role was just as important. General Carter called a meeting one evening, gathering his top officers and advisors in the briefing room. The mood was tense as he addressed the group. "We've done everything we can to slow them down," he began, his voice heavy with urgency. "But it's not enough. Their fleet is closing in on Earth, and we don't have the resources to match them head-on." "What are options, sir?" asked Lieutenant Emily Ross, her expression grim. Carter hesitated before answering. "There's only one option left. We take the fight to them. Alex proposed an assault on their homeworld months ago, and I think he might be right. If we can cripple their command structure, it'll give us the upper hand." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the gravity of the plan. Attacking the aliens' homeworld was a bold and risky strategy, but it might be humanity's only chance at survival. Lavra glanced at Alex, who met her gaze with a steady nod. He'd been preparing for this moment ever since he first suggested. "The idea, we'll need volunteers," Carter continued. "This mission won't be easy, and not everyone will make it back. But if we succeed, we'll change the course of this war." Without hesitation, Alex stepped forward. "I'm in, sir." Lavra hesitated for a moment, then joined him. "Me too." One by one, others volunteered until a small but highly skilled team was assembled. They would travel aboard a prototype stealth cruiser designed to evade detection and deliver them directly to the aliens' homeworld. Once there, their objective was clear: infiltrate the central command center, disable their defenses, and plant explosives to destroy the facility. The journey to the aliens' homeworld was long and perilous. The stealth cruiser moved silently through space, its cloaking technology shielding it from enemy sensors. Inside, the team prepared for the mission ahead, reviewing plans and running simulations. Tension hung thick in the air, but no one voiced their fears. They all knew what was at stake. When they finally arrived, the sight of the alien homeworld took their breath away. It was a massive planet surrounded by orbiting fortresses and swarms of ships. The sheer scale of the aliens' military presence was overwhelming, but the team remained focused. This was their chance to turn the tide of the war. Using carefully timed maneuvers, the cruisers slipped past the outer defenses and landed on the planet's surface. The team disembarked under cover of darkness, moving swiftly toward the command center. The terrain was harsh and unfamiliar, dotted with towering structures and glowing conduits. Alien patrols roamed the area, forcing the team to stay in the shadows. As they approached the command center, Alex signaled for the team to halt. "This is it," he whispered. "From here on we move quietly. No mistakes." The entrance was heavily guarded, but the team managed to bypass the security systems using tools designed specifically for the mission. Once inside, they encountered resistance almost immediately. Alarms blared as aliens rushed to defend the facility, and the sound of gunfire echoed through the corridors. "Stay close," Alex shouted, firing his weapon at a group of advancing aliens. His team responded with precision, taking down enemies while keeping their formation intact. Lavra fought alongside them, her movements sharp and deliberate. She hadn't held a weapon in weeks, but her instincts kicked in instantly. Together, the team pushed forward, fighting their way deeper into the facility. Finally, they reached the central control room. Alex moved to the main console, inserting a hacking device to disable the planet's defenses. "We're almost there," he said, his voice strained with effort. "Just hold them off a little longer." The aliens launched a fierce counterattack, flooding the room with reinforcements. Outnumbered and outgunned, the team fought desperately to protect Alex as he worked. Bullets ricocheted off walls, and explosions shook the ground beneath their feet. "This isn't going to hold," Ryan Blake yelled, reloading his rifle. "They're breaking through." Lavra grabbed a grenade from her belt and hurled it into the crowd of aliens, creating a temporary breach in their line. "Keep pushing," she shouted, her voice filled with determination. With seconds to spare, Alex completed the hack. "Done," he exclaimed. "Defenses are down. Plant the charges and let's get out of here." The team moved quickly, setting explosives at key points throughout the room. As they finished, the facility began to collapse around them, structural supports failing under the strain of the attack. They retreated as fast as they could, dodging falling debris and pursuing aliens. Reaching the exit, Alex turned back for a final look. The command center was engulfed in flames, its destruction sealing humanity's victory. "Let's go home," he said, leading the team toward the waiting cruiser. Back on Earth, news of the successful mission spread rapidly. People celebrated in the streets, hugging strangers and cheering for the heroes who had saved the planet. General Carter personally welcomed the team home, his face lined with both pride and sorrow. "You've done the impossible," he told them. "Humanity owes you everything." Lavra stood beside Alex, her heart swelling with emotion. She thought of all the sacrifices made along the way, the lives lost, the battles fought, the endless nights spent preparing for this moment. It had been a long and difficult journey, but they had succeeded. In private ceremonies, Alex and his team were awarded medals for their bravery. Alex accepted his honor humbly, declining most public recognition. "This victory belongs to everyone," he said simply. "We couldn't have done it without each other." Lavra returned to her role as an advisor, continuing to mentor new soldiers and share the lessons she had learned. Though she missed the thrill of the battlefield, she found fulfillment in shaping the next generation of defenders. Her legacy, like Alex's, would live on through those she trained. Far away, in the depths of space, remnants of the alien fleet regrouped, vowing revenge. But for now, humanity breathed easier, united by the knowledge that they had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. And thanks to the courage and sacrifice of a few extraordinary individuals, Earth still stood strong. As Alex gazed at the stars one final time, he allowed himself a rare moment of peace. The road ahead would be long, and challenges would undoubtedly arise. But for now, humanity had hope, a fragile but powerful thing. And as long as people like Lavra, Alex, and the countless others who had fought beside them remained willing to stand against the darkness, that hope would never fade.